One of my favorite toys from the 80s were these things called Zoids. I know they had a resurgence a few years ago, like just about everything else from the 80s, but the originals are still the best. When I got a little older, I became interested in BattleTech. I read the books, but I never played the tabletop game, mostly because my friends at the time were playing either Dungeons & Dragons or Shadowrun. I did get into the video games, starting with BattleTech on the Commodore 64, all the way up to the MechAssault games on the original Xbox. I've always thought giant robots were cool, so when I saw the trailer for Robot Jox, I nearly flipped. The film was released in 1990, and was directed by Stuart Gordon. Gordon directed the cult favorite Reanimator, and the epic The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit. If you think I'm going to do a show on this one, you are most certainly correct. The film was written by Hugo and Nebula award-winning author Joe Haldeman. Haldeman always wanted to write a movie, so when his friend Gordon contacted him and told him he wanted to make a sci-fi adaptation of the Iliad with commies and giant robots, Haldeman jumped at the offer. Although after 6 rewrites, he was regretting his decision. Haldeman wanted to call the movie The Mechanics, but Gordon insisted on Robo-Jox. They changed it to Robot Jox, so they wouldn't get sued. After some time, Gordon contacted Haldeman and said, "Joe, our problem is that you're writing a movie for adults that children can enjoy, but I'm directing a movie for children that adults can enjoy." After finally watching the movie, Haldeman had this to say about it. "Some people may enjoy it, but to me, it's as if I had a child who started out well and then sustained brain damage." This is the first and last screenplay Haldeman ever wrote. Empire Pictures went bankrupt during the production, with this being their most expensive film ever. Epic Pictures bought and finished the film, and it was finally released 2 years after it was started. So with all these problems, is the film worth it? Hell yeah. The movie opens with a voiceover explaining the backstory.
It is 50 years since the nuclear holocaust almost destroyed mankind. War
Never changes.
is now outlawed, and all territorial disputes between the 2 great alliances are settled by single combat.
In the post-apocalyptic future after World War III, wars are fought gladiator style in a battlefield between 2 giant robots. The pilots are called Robot Jox. There are only 2 nations, the American Western Market and the Russian Confederation. There's a battle going on between Alexander the Russian and one of the American Robot Jox, Hercules.
Oh, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules!
Alexander wins, and the Russians announce they want Alaska. The Americans want to send in their best jock, Achilles, to defend Alaska. Achilles is watching along with retired jock Tex Conway and Dr. Matsumoto. The doctor reveals there's a spy who's been leaking secrets about their technology, which is why they keep losing. After a training session, Achilles meets with Professor Laplace. Is it me or does she look like a chicken? She explains that they've created the next wave of robot jocks by genetically enhancing test tube babies. Achilles and Tex are both against this, but they do like Athena, who is one of the tubies. You can tell who the tubies are by their stupid ponytails. Here's a Jeffrey Combs cameo. Achilles is on his way to fight Alexander. Ooh, isn't this guy fresh? Achilles and Alexander battle for a while. Goofy reaction shot. But when Alexander's losing, he fires off a projectile that's headed straight for the audience. Whose bright idea was it to have a live audience watching giant robots fight? Achilles blocks the projectile, but loses his balance and stumbles back into the crowd, killing about 300 of them. They have a court ruling and declare the match a draw. Since robot jocks are contractually bound to fight 10 battles, Achilles announces he's retiring. With Achilles out of the way, The Tubies are fighting over who will be the next robot jock. Achilles goes to the bar for a few drinks. That's director Stuart Gordon as the bartender. He gets drunk, passes out, and Athena takes him home. Athena and Achilles get into an argument because she thinks he's a coward for retiring. He throws her out. There's a clever bit in the movie with these posters. Since in the future they need to repopulate, they're trying to promote the image of a pregnant woman or a woman with a child, much like the pinup girls back in World War II. Sad to see that literacy hasn't improved in the future. Achilles, now retired, goes to live with his brother's family. Meanwhile, Athena beats the Devil's Jungle Gym and becomes the first female robot jock. Her first fight will be with Alexander. Achilles sees this and leaves retirement for fear of her life. He rejoins the robot jocks and is now set to fight Alexander. Alexander is so happy Achilles is back, he does his best Dracula impression.
You're making my beer curdle.
And you make my drink taste like blood.
The doctor suspects that Tex is the Russian spy, so he confronts him. Matsumoto records the meeting, and Tex shoots him and makes it look like a suicide. Athena goes to ask Achilles why he returned, but she drugs him so she can get her spot back in the fight. Before he passes out, Achilles fights back. Athena definitely has some advantages. Being a Tubi, she has accelerated reflexes, no fear, and has the ability to transform into a man while fighting. Athena finally knocks Achilles out. She steals his gear and then goes to fight in his place. She almost gets away with it until, hey, this can't be Achilles. He likes it when I grab his ass. Achilles wakes up and breaks out of his apartment. Athena climbs out of the base and begins the fight with Alexander. Right away, she realizes that she's outmatched. More goofy reaction shots. They play the video for Matsumoto for Achilles, and he sees Tex murder him. Tex escapes and jumps to his death. Athena fights back and manages to cut off Alexander's arm. This only seems to piss him off, and he begins to beat the crap out of her. Achilles gets out onto the playing field and says one of my all-time favorite movie lines.
No, you're a lot of things, Alexander, but you're not a coward. I'm gonna get in this thing, and I'm gonna kick your ass!
Achilles goes in to replace a now unconscious Athena. Yeah, real good there, guy. Injured, half-conscious girl is laying there. Don't get her to the paramedics or anything. Make out with her and jiggle her spine around. Achilles, now back in control of the mech, launches into space. Alexander follows. Alright, a space battle. This is gonna be short. That's it. They fly into space. Alexander shoots him with a missile, and then he crashes back down on Earth. He's seriously in space for 30 seconds. After crash landing, Achilles transforms his damaged mech. He attacks Alexander, but is defeated by the dreaded chainsaw penis. With the mech destroyed, Achilles is now on foot. He sees the arm that Athena cut off from earlier, and... what? They flew up into space, and then crashed down in the exact spot they were just in? Achilles hotwires the fist to fire the rocket projectile, which destroys Alexander's mech. Alexander ejected from the mech in the nick of time, and now they have a fist fight. Achilles convinces Alexander that they can both live, and the movie ends in the most absurd way. This is all I can think of when I see this now.
America, 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 fuck yeah, coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah, America.
Awesome RCA connectors, by the way. While the movie does have a few things in it from the Iliad, like some of the names, and Achilles getting shot in the foot, it really isn't an adaptation. Gary Graham is excellent as Achilles. I've been a fan of his ever since the outstanding TV series Alien Nation. Paul Koslo was great as the villain Alexander. His accent mixed with his lines were hysterical.
Yeah! Won't wake your mind. I'll kill you dead.
They made him into an almost cartoonish villain, which totally worked within the confines of the movie.
I called, you know. Squash you both. Like bags.
The stop-motion animation may not be up to today's standards, but I still think it looks pretty good. There was a movie that came out after this called Crash and Burn, and even though they say crash and burn in this movie quite a bit,
Crash and burn.
Crash and burn. Crash and burn.
it's not a sequel. It's been released in some places as Robot Jox 2 Crash and Burn, but has almost nothing in common. There's even another movie claiming to be Robot Jox 2, and that is Robot Jox 2 Robot Wars. Aside from being produced by Charles Band, this is another movie that has nothing to do with Robot Jox. Well, it does have more scenes with giant robots, but that's about it. When I was in college, we had a drinking game that revolved around this movie. Every time someone said Achilles, you'd take a shot.
Achilles!
Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles. Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles! Achilles! Achilles!
Achilles.
Achilles!
Achilles.
Achilles.
Achilles! Achilles!
Achilles. Achilles.
We were usually shit-faced in about 15 minutes.
Achilles!